Hey everyone, welcome back to K-Korner, the channel where we dive into the wild world of entitled people and their unbelievable stories. Hope you enjoy it, and without further ado, let's go. This story started in 2017 and was repeated every year until this year. I have promised my father-in-law to repeat the compliance if it happens again. My in-laws used to live just outside of town. They moved this past fall to my mother-in-law's home island, and we moved into their place. When I say just outside, I mean about 2 meters outside of the city limits. To be exact, and important for later, the city plan reached up to the middle of the dirt road that separated their property from the neighboring one. Back in the spring of 2017, my in-laws received a letter from the city council about cleaning their property from dead grass in preparation for summer due to fire hazards, or they would be fined. The letter and the deadline, end of May, were normal. What wasn't normal was the area named. It was their property, the property next to them, inside city limits, and the road in between. My father-in-law took the letter to the council and explained that the property next to him didn't belong to him, and he couldn't clean it. They appeared to accept it, but something was nagging him. Now, my father-in-law had worked in exactly 2 companies in his life, both handling big government contracts, and his main job was to take care of red tape and government bureaucracy. So he found the exact law that said the owner was responsible for their property, and the city was responsible for any roads and properties inside city limits where an owner couldn't be found. He also found, through his connections, that the local council was under investigation for misappropriation of funds, including funds for cleaning lots considered fire hazards. The tactic they used was to include lots that fell under their responsibility to nearby owners, and either intimidate them, with the fear of a fine, to clean them or fine them and pocket the money. My father-in-law decided to become creative. First, he gathered all the plans related to his property and the one next to him. Next, he cleared his property. He was planning to do that anyway. But only that. He cleared the part of the road that fell outside city limits. And then he waited. The deadline passed, and about 10 days later, a hefty fine arrived. My father-in-law challenged it officially. The council tried to enforce the fine. My father-in-law challenged it again, presenting his evidence in an open forum of the council. The council insisted they were right, and if my father-in-law didn't pay, they would take legal action. My father-in-law agreed happily to the legal action. This led to the court appointing an outside inspector to check the property, the city plans, and the work my father-in-law had done. The council not only lost the case and had to pay legal fees, but they were also forced into an outside audit that led to a couple of councilmen facing criminal charges. Every year since then, my father-in-law used to clean his property and exactly up to the middle of the road next to him. That duty has been passed down to me now, which I fulfilled this year. Lately, my dad and older brother have been trying to push the job of making the shopping list onto me. Since I'm the least food-interested person in the house, I don't know how much we need, so I need someone's help with making the list. As Dad had gone to bed, my brother helped me. Well, he helped me. He would sit there and tell me which item I needed to check one at a time and give me a vague or silly answer as to how much we needed of something. For example, he said we needed 35 tubs of mint ice cream, or the amount of beer we needed was a fridge. I was getting annoyed, especially because he was trying to watch a movie at the time. He kept pausing and unpausing it between items, so I had to deal with him always telling me to be quiet and wait for the end of the scene, or a good time to pause, which took several minutes per item. For a full shopping list for 3 people and a cat. Did I mention it was around 11:45 p.m. when we started doing this? And this was after he had delayed helping for 3 days? Eventually, I got fed up and started writing exactly what he said when it came to his food items. So we needed an amount of veggie burgers, just guess of tuna. Be quiet, this is a good bit of dark cooking chocolate, and look at the silly cat of butternut squash, and so on. By the time we were done, it was past 2 a.m., and I was exhausted, stressed, and satisfied with my work. I took the list upstairs to my dad, left it on his bedside table with a sticky note that said, "If anything looks wrong, just don't get it." In the morning, Dad went to do the shopping. He came back with everything I eat and he eats, but my brother was missing about 85% of his food items. When my brother asked what happened, my dad said that he couldn't tell whether we needed to get some things because the amounts of those things seemed unusual or costly, and felt it was safer if he didn't buy those things. It turns out Dad had been kept awake by my brother's movie for 2.5 hours last night and was as fed up with it as I was. My brother had to walk up to the local shop and buy as many of his things as he could from there. They didn't have everything, out of his own money. He even had to make 2 trips because he couldn't carry everything the first time. It's a mile walk there, meaning he had to walk 4 miles in total to buy his food out of his pocket. Dad wouldn't drive him because he had a long run to do, and I certainly wasn't going to help. I was too busy eating my Pringles, which I forgot to put on the list. I'm still going to have to help make the list in the future, but when I do, something tells me my 27-year-old brother will help properly next time. Originally posted on an alternate account, but it got deleted due to a lack of comment history. I wanted to hide my comment history since it highlights the country in question, but I don't care anymore. This content is not safe for work, just in case. It mentions drugs and sex. My friend from high school has been feeling down for a while. It's her 3rd year of college, and while her parents pay for all her school needs and a little more, her reluctance to get a part-time job leaves her strapped for cash all the time. This culminated in her spending all 3 of her summer breaks in relative nothingness. She's taking a gap year to stall her senior year, and I offered to host her at my parents' house in my home country. She was ecstatic. I told her to bring enough money to be comfortable but not to worry too much about food costs, as my parents can cover that. They offered to do so. For some reason, she thought this meant we would pay for her ticket. Mind you, a ticket would have cost at least $1,100. Chaos ensued just 2 weeks before her designated arrival time, but she managed to get a ticket, courtesy of her parents. We're on the 3rd week of her stay, and it's been awful. I never knew someone could change so much in 5 college semesters. Because we had a long-distance friendship, I never saw her behavior in person. Let me highlight some of the audacity of this girl. She's been avoiding doing the laundry, stuffing all her dirty clothes under the bed. At first, it was because she was too lazy to put her clothes in the hamper. My mom graciously does all our laundry because she's into fitness and is a busybody. Then, when it piled up, she got too embarrassed to admit it. I ended up doing the laundry for her. Her room is a mess from her nightly food binging, and somehow she snuck alcohol bottles into the house. I'm well into my 4th gnat trap in her room because she can't keep things clean enough to avoid an infestation. She FaceTimes her cousin or best friend or whoever in the middle of the night. Then, when she inevitably misses our agreed schedule the next morning because she's too tired, she lies and tells me it's because the mattress is too uncomfortable. I can literally hear her laughing in the other room. We went to a bar. She met a local there and asked me to hang around the city while she dated him because she didn't want to be left alone. I told her to get lost because I never agreed to be ditched like this, but I decided to stick around anyway because I still had things I wanted to do in the city. Come nighttime, I went to pick her up only to see that she had changed her mind and gone home with the guy she just met. What a surprise. Later, she told me she lied to him, saying she moved here. He didn't want a one-night stand with a tourist but an actual relationship. She just wanted free drinks and sex. She then mentioned that she was getting frustrated because guys weren't approaching her when she was a foreigner. She's literally the same race as the locals, except with a darker complexion. Think French versus Portuguese in comparison. She's doing drugs. Like the illegal ones. I don't even know how she got her hands on those. Probably from the guy she just met. She brought them home and tried to smoke out the window. The drugs are gone from the house at least. I used cleaning the room as an excuse to flush them out, not literally. My parents bought us event tickets that were approximately $70 each. She decided to go to a club instead, and wouldn't answer her phone when I was left blindsided. She agreed to go but didn't tell me she changed her mind. I lied to my parents because I didn't have the heart to tell my mom, only I went. She never tells us when she's hungover or whatever. Only after my parents buy the food does she decide she's too wasted to eat. My parents asked her to be a bit more thorough with her scheduling because she kept canceling plans and sleeping in. Her response was to call my parents nosy and tell them to get off her back. Luckily, they don't speak her language, and they didn't bother asking me what she said. They know she's being rude. This isn't even all the things she's done so far. My parents have spent close to $3,500 on her, ranging from food to luxury trips around the country. They were going to take us to get a full-course meal costing around $150, and a trip to another country, but canceled everything because of her behavior. Now she's asking me about these things that were supposedly promised to her, and I just told her straight that she's acting like a festering pest. I think she knows our friendship is over. She came out of the room yesterday, after a day-long Sabbath, pretending to have starved out of stress. She has snacks stashed in her room, and when I peeked in to see wrappers on the floor, she slammed the door in my face so I couldn't see the mess. She claims she's just depressed and didn't realize my family had all these Eastern rules that were too foreign for her comprehension. Rules like no shoes in the house and, well, not turning the room into a pigsty. We both grew up in the same Western country, so these rules being too Eastern for us is new to me. This isn't even considering her family is also from an Eastern country. She sat me down to tell me we need to communicate better on what I expect from her since we're adults now. But I don't see why I need to communicate that she shouldn't be putting half-eaten ramen in the closet for 2 weeks. Anyways, I told her she could do what she wanted for the last week, and I'd stay out of her hair. She again asked me if we were going on that foreign country trip we initially planned for. I told her no, and she's sulting in her room again. Oh no, anyways, I have 1 more week with this parasite. Reddit, please give me strength. Update. I wasn't going to update or anything, but I thought what happened 2 days ago warranted another post. NSFW, just because the original post had it. Summary of original post. My family decided to host my friend in a foreign country and proceeded to spend thousands of dollars on her. It all goes down the drain, culminating in canceling a trip abroad planned for her due to her drug use and generally terrible guest habits. This isn't some coming of Christ or scorned lover, friend, revenge update, but I felt the need to vent. About 4 days ago, I went on a camping trip with the family. My friend decided to sleep over at her new not-so-one-night-stand's house until she left the country, most likely because she no longer felt welcome in my house. I told her we wouldn't be home, but I got a text message from her while camping saying she's going back home and needed the passcode to the house. There was no way I was going to let her in the house alone, so I ignored her text. She blew up my phone shortly after, including calls that I couldn't even pick up anyway, because they would bill me for international calls. Judging from her sporadic texts and calls, I can only surmise she got kicked out of her guy's house. Unfortunately, I only got her side of the story, but I suspect she either got too hung up on his drugs and ignored him or grossed him out with her living habits. Did I mention this girl left vomit trails in the bathtub? Why doesn't she puke in the toilet? It was either that or she revealed she doesn't actually live here, since she tricked him into thinking this wasn't going to be a summer fling. I texted her back while coming back 2 days ago, telling her I didn't have reception, and she replied with a real short, okay. We let her in sometime in the evening because my parents are still willing to house her, and her way of showing gratitude is to give us the cold shoulder. She asked me to buy her dinner later because she's broke after affording a day at a hotel. I just rolled my eyes and said no. She's not my responsibility. She came out of her room later dressed like she forgot half her clothes in her room. I felt like I was in the Twilight Zone watching a 26-year-old woman wearing booty shorts and a small tank top with little ducks and ribbons on it. I gave her a weird look, and she told me she's going to ask my parents instead since they're nice and she's cute. I swear I almost barfed then and there. I guess the reception wasn't what she expected because my mom laughed at her the moment she saw her, and my dad gave her a look of absolute disgust. I guess she lost her nerve and didn't bother asking. She just casually grabbed some water and walked back to her room. I don't understand what her plan was. Did the shock of getting dumped by her fling make her think she could seduce my parents? This whole thing was so stupid. She just wanted to eat expensive food, considering you can eat a meal for less than $5 in my country. She lives in some fantasy world where she's entitled to things as long as she does some cliché main character stuff. She's been quiet after that. So I guess going through that mental trauma was worth it. She just left the house several hours ago. Because she's been so out of her mind due to all the partying, she completely forgot it takes a good 1 to 2 hour trip to the airport, and she left the house in tears because she's late. She even had the gall to yell at me because I didn't remind her or reserve a bus ticket, and I told her she's 26, not 12 years old. If she can't figure out how long it takes to get to the airport ahead of time, then she's not mature enough to be doing drugs. Lo and behold, not only did she miss her flight, she lost her wallet at the airport in the chaos. She only bothered to tell me about this because she wanted me to book a hotel for her while she figures that all out. She's out of my hair now, and I'll probably never talk to her again. It was so stressful in the beginning, but towards the end, I just didn't care anymore. Thank you to those who commented on my original post. You guys were real gems who kept me strong through the filth that is my leech. I didn't reply to most, but I did read through all of it. Have a nice day and remember to take the trash out before it wears lingerie and tries to seduce your parents. Enjoying the stories yet? If you do, please subscribe, like, and comment. This happened about a month ago. I went to look for some Christmas gifts with my sister and her children, both 6 and 8 years old, respectively. She had actually planned to buy them a Nintendo Switch after saving up enough money. We walked into that specific game store where we would get the console. Alongside Mario Maker 2, everything has been going fine with the purchase, and we were just about to make it, until my sister left her purse in the car. She had to quickly leave while asking me to look after my nephews, while also telling the clerk to wait until she comes back. Sure enough, I stayed with the kids and waited. Then a mildly fat woman appeared out of the blue, and she tried to buy the same Nintendo Switch we had already claimed. I then stepped in and went like, "Excuse me, ma'am, that's my Nintendo Switch. We're gonna buy it right this second." At the same time, the clerk already sided with me on this one. Immediately after stepping in, this entitled woman wasn't having it. "Bullshit," she said. "This is how the rest of the convo went. You have more than one of these in your storage, right?" "Sorry, ma'am, this is the last one, and he claimed it first." "Shut up." This entitled woman was looking at us in disgust, as if she smelled rotten food, then looks back at the clerk. "Why are you going the trouble of waiting for these wetbacks to pay with money they don't even have?" My nephews began to feel uncomfortable and sad as they were having their perfect Christmas gift taken away by some evil fuck. One of them actually firmly clung to it, never to let go. The entitled woman then pushed him back against a line of new games, which fell on him. This is when madness began. At the same time that woman pushed one of my nephews, my sister came back, absolutely irate. The woman got on her face and looked at her dead in the eye. "You're not worth my time, you bunch of beaners." "Fuck you," she says, before spitting my sister in the face. My sister, a former Muay Thai practitioner, did what a mother could ever do to protect her children. She kicked the entitled fuck in the face, knocking her out flat. The cops showed up shortly after. I couldn't remember much of what else happened, as I went ahead and immediately helped my hurt nephew as soon as the batch of games fell on him. However, this morning, I talked with my sister about this situation, now that she was already clear. She tells me that the entitled woman is now facing charges on behaving under the influence, correct me if I got the wrong terms, destruction of private property, and assaulting a minor. While my sister was also facing any charges, these were dropped after reviewing CCTV and our statements. And yes, I returned the next day and bought the Nintendo Switch after they restocked, because that entitled woman broke the previous one anyhow when assaulting my nephew. We may consider therapy after Christmas and nigh, because my poor nephew is still distraught a month after the dispute. Update: it seems that this entire post blew up while I was absent. My apologies for not replying to any of the comments here. I felt like I needed to update you on the entire story. So, here it is. On my assaulted nephew. Much appreciated for your comments suggesting I should look for a therapist. Right now, I've been looking for a therapist to treat my nephew, as soon as the entire Christmas and Nye was over. My sister was the one successful in finding one, as her husband referred her to a friend of his, who happens to be a therapist. I mentioned before that there were 2 boys 6 and 8-year-old, and the latter was the one assaulted by that lady. He is about to start his therapy sessions this week. Until then, I've been spending my time with my nephew. He seemed to be doing better, but he was still a bit distraught at what happened. I actually bought him the Mario 3D trilogy as a present because he likes to play Super Mario a whole lot. It goes without saying that we didn't do anything on the matter at the time because we were busy with the December party stuff and the gifts to the rest of the family. On the fat Karen, I mentioned before that my sister was about to face charges for battery, but everything was dropped when that Karen was exposed on CCTV. I didn't have a deeper convo with my sis, but 2 months after, she told me in details that the woman actually had crime records related to her violent and racist behavior. She was even arrested on possession of some illegal substance before. That woman will sit her ass there for a long time, to keep it short. And on my sister. I'm sorry if I omitted some details about my sister. There was a time in her life where she suffered from anger management. She had enrolled in Muay Thai lessons to help control her rage. But seeing her thrashing that Karen was the very first time I saw her pissed off, and the greatest fit of rage I've seen ever. In addition to my nephew, she is also undertaking therapy to address this incident. Much appreciated for your time reading the whole story from the start. Well, this is not the experience I thought I'd have on my way home from the office this afternoon. But here we are. While enduring my afternoon commute, I decided to stop at the old Walmart to pick up some cat food to avoid having to do it over the weekend. I usually make a point to shop at Target to avoid the Walmart antics, but Walmart was closer, and I was tired. I walked in and immediately experienced the chaos of Boxing Day that I'd completely forgotten about. The customer service desk line was past Subway and down into menswear, and the checkouts were an absolute nightmare. I had half a mind to turn around and leave, but I resigned myself to tolerating it now rather than dealing with a potentially worse situation on a Saturday. I made a beeline for the pet section, found the biggest bag of the brand I'm keen on, hoisted it over my shoulder, and headed to checkout. As I made my way over, I glanced past the employee station sections and peeked at self-checkout, which was even more of a mess. I decided to interact with another human in Walmart for the first time in months. As I was standing in line, I eyed a Red Bull in the cooler at the end cap and snagged one. I was perhaps the 3rd or 4th person in line at the lovely 10, maybe 20 items or less line, a limit that people love to test on an hourly basis, but I digress. It was moving at a decent enough speed for a day like today. I worked in retail and retail management for a collective 6 years. So I pride myself on being one of the most patient and understanding customers on the East Coast. The woman behind me, however, was not. She had a shopping cart parked too close to me for my liking, and frequently sighed, tapped her foot on the bottom section of her shopping cart, and tsked and tutted regularly. If I rolled my eyes any harder, they might have dislodged themselves from their sockets. I hate waiting as much as the next person. But what I hate even more are people who feel the need to make that much noise in the process. The cashier summoned the next person in line, and now there was just a single soul ahead of me. The woman huffed and puffed again and inched forward, bumping me with her shopping cart. I half-turned and glanced at the shopping cart and then at her, giving her a neutral eyebrow raise, hoping she'd get the hint and take a step or two back. Spoiler alert, she didn't. But it was then that she decided that either her bumping me with her cart or my decision to turn around and acknowledge her existence was the green light to bother me. And so it begins. Our cast, entitled Karen, Cashier, Shopper, Store Manager, Asset Protection, Police Officer. Me. Alexios the eagle bearer entitled Karen, excuse me. Me, silence entitled Karen, slightly louder, excuse me, me, turned slightly, cat food still hoisted over my shoulder, me, entitled Karen, yes, could you let me in front of you, I'm tired of waiting. Me, glances into entitled Karen's shopping cart, I only have 2 things, I'll be quick. Entitled Karen, yeah, but I'm tired of waiting. This line is ridiculous. Me, well, I can't help that sadly. Entitled Karen, you kids have no respect for your elders. Me, I'm 26 years old, I'm hardly a kid. And you look about 36, you're hardly what I'd consider an elder and you're certainly not mine. Entitled Karen, wow, rude much, I just asked to get in front of you in line. Me, yes, and I heard you perfectly fine. Look, with respect, if our roles were reversed, I'd totally let you. But you have a cart full of things while I only have 2. Please, I'm just trying to wait for my turn in peace. Entitled Karen, your cat can wait, my kids are in the car waiting for me. Me, not a me problem. Hope they have supervision. Entitled Karen, emits some kind of guttural growl or sneer at this point. The shopper in front of me turned his head slightly to glance behind him, and glanced at the large bag of cat food over my shoulder. Shopper, hey man, do you want to go ahead of me? Me, nah, that's all right. You've been waiting longer than me. Thanks though, I appreciate it. Entitled Karen, I'll go if he won't, shopper, I wasn't speaking to you. Entitled Karen, why I never, emitting more guttural noises. The shopper ahead of me took his turn with the cashier, and I, now mildly exhausted from having a 20-something pound bag of cat food over my shoulder, bent forward to prop it against the checkout conveyor belt. Since the shopper in front of me had it loaded with his items, it's worth mentioning at this point in the story that I have a license to carry, and always do, a 9mm compact in an inside waistband holster in the back of my pants. What I didn't realize was that when I bent forward, my bomber jacket lifted enough to reveal enough to determine what was tucked securely away. In my state, the outline of a firearm showing through your clothes or anything of the sort isn't necessarily illegal. Neither is open carrying. It's just better mannered to keep your concealed carry, well, concealed. Usually to avoid making people uncomfortable or giving someone an excuse to cause a scene, which is exactly what this Karen decided to do. Entitled Karen, you have a gun. Me, silence with an eye roll. Entitled Karen, he has a gun. He has a gun. Me, I have a license to carry it. Will you be quiet and mind your business? Entitled Karen, he threatened to shoot me. Help, I need a manager. Someone call the police. Now the entire front end of the store was looking over in our direction, and I honestly just wanted to sink into the disgusting linoleum and fall into oblivion. The cashier rolled her eyes and picked up the phone to summon Asset Protection and the store manager. Asset Protection arrived on the scene first, with the manager arriving a few moments later. Asset Protection, what seems to be the problem here? Entitled Karen, that guy has a gun, and he threatened to shoot me. Me, oh my lord. Asset Protection, ma'am, please calm down. Sir, what's the issue? Me, I didn't threaten to shoot her. I've been waiting in line, minding my business. Asset Protection, sir, if you have a gun, I'm going to have to ask you to leave the store. We do not allow guns here. Me, there's no posted signage stating this fact, but that's fine. I'd like to get away from her anyway. Entitled Karen, no, I want him arrested. He threatened to kill me. Me, I did not. Entitled Karen, you're a liar, you threatened to kill me. You're insane and a negligent parent. Miss, my kids are in the car. Entitled Karen, how dare you bring my kids into this? Are you going to shoot them too? Store manager, excuse me, I'm the store manager here. What is going on? Asset Protection, this woman claims this man has a gun and threatened to shoot her. I just asked him to leave. Cashier, he barely said a word to her. Shopper, yeah, he's been standing in line quietly, and she's been harassing him about taking his place in line. He didn't threaten to shoot her. He's barely said anything to her. Asset Protection, still, you can't have guns in the store. You need to leave or I'll call the police. Store manager, excuse me. I don't see a gun. Sir, what's happened? Me, I leaned down to put the bag of cat food down since I got tired of holding it, and my jacket must have lifted and revealed my gun. I have a license to carry, and it was concealed. Store manager, We don't allow open carry. Concealed carry is allowed in accordance with our state regulations. Sir, may I please see your license to carry? Me. Opens wallet. Hands over license to carry. Store manager. Hands it back after looking at it. Looks like you to me. I apologize for the inconvenience. Asset protection, meet me in the staff room in 5 minutes. It seems we need to review our policies and guidelines before you ask customers to leave unnecessarily. Entitled Karen. No, I want him arrested. He threatened to kill me and my children. Aren't you listening? Well, someone in the store must have called the police because a second later, a police officer approached just as Entitled Karen finished screeching. The store manager explained the situation to the officer, who then heard from the cashier and the shopper in line in front of me, verified my license to carry, and dismissed me. Me. Officer, forgive me. It may not be my business, but Entitled Karen told me she left her children in the car. I don't know how old they are, but given the fact that this whole nonsense took up who knows how long, someone might want to check on those kids. Police officer. Turning to Entitled Karen, excuse me, ma'am, I'm going to need to escort you to your vehicle. Entitled Karen began another tirade of screaming and arguing, and ended up being removed from the store by the police officer. I don't know what happened to her or the kids. Maybe the kids were of age and could be left alone, but given her appearance and the impression I got from her, they most likely were kids that shouldn't be left alone. Edit. Thank you for all the kind comments complimenting my writing. I appreciate it immensely. I owe it to my English teachers from junior and senior years in high school, 2 phenomenal women who led phenomenal educational experiences. Edit 2. Thank you for the Silver Awards and the Santa Rocket Award. I've never seen a Santa Rocket Award on Reddit before, so that's pretty neat. Edit 3. Gold, Platinum, Sweet Muscular Jesus. Who'd have thought my exhausting experience would elicit such generosity? Thank you. Edit IV. Not sure why my post suddenly has a fake flair. I made a point to message the moderators about it. I can get a copy of the police report if I have to, as proof of the incident. Edit V. 14 hours later, after messaging the mods about the fake flare someone decided to adorn me with, no one's responded to my message. Oh well, I tried. Thank you to everyone who read my story and upvoted. Thank you to everyone who commented, asked questions, and engaged in conversation with me. My inbox is always open if you'd like to continue some conversations. Thank you to everyone who believed me and didn't question my credibility or the events of yesterday. I appreciate your faith. Lastly, a very special thank you to everyone who gave my submission an award. I've never been gilded in such a generous and immense capacity, and I am eternally grateful. I'm looking forward to doing some more gilding of my own on other people's submissions and spreading the positive love around. For anyone who expressed interest in the police report in the comments and via private message, when I get a copy of it, I'll gladly share a copy if I'm legally allowed to do so, once I sharpie out the identifying and personal details. My mom abruptly left my dad when I was a toddler because he was verbally, financially, and slowly becoming physically abusive. One day after he went to work, she packed us up and left him. Growing up, she never spoke badly about him, and always encouraged us to talk and see each other. My first memory of my father is from when I was 5. He picked me up and we drove to his friend's house to go fishing. I only spoke Spanish at the time, and all his friends were very American. After a couple of hours, he told me to stay with them because he was going to run errands and would be back in an hour. While he was gone, I was really scared and confused because I didn't know him, didn't know the people he left me with, and couldn't communicate with them. I tried asking the lady to let me call my mom, but she didn't understand me. When he finally picked me up, it was very late, and all I had eaten was some corn pops without milk. We went to his apartment, and all he had was a mattress on the floor with a big window in front of it and no shades. I didn't sleep at all. I was hungry. That was the first time I ever saw a sunrise. After that, I was always scared of being alone with him. I would always bring a friend or cousin. I only saw him maybe once a year on my birthday, and honestly, I don't remember much about those times. He was mostly absent from my life. When I was 11, we moved to the same city as my aunt, my father's sister, who my mom is very close to. I started learning about all the crazy issues my dad's side of the family had. My father came and visited me and his sister, and even thought of moving there too. But first, he tried talking to my mom and, I guess, gauging to see if she was still interested in him. She wasn't. I didn't know this at the time. This was when things became bad. My dad started causing problems with my aunt and his mother for being in contact with my mom. He started hating my mom a lot, and it affected our relationship even more. He told my grandmother that she was not allowed to be around us. One day I went to the mall with my mom, grandmother, aunt and my cousins, and we had a great time. At the end, my grandma gave me $1,000 in cash and a letter. The letter said she could no longer be my grandma and couldn't be in my life. I was 12. My heart was broken because I loved her. My aunt took my mom's and my side and stopped talking to my dad and grandma. He was absent after that. When I was 15, I was going through a rebellious phase with my mom. I grew up a lonely, only child, latchkey kid. I was extremely confused about all the issues with my dad. I wanted to learn for myself why my dad hated my mom. At this time, I didn't know my dad had been abusive. I begged him to let me visit him and meet my little brothers. Although I was scared, he took me on vacation to Canada with his wife, kids, and my grandmother. It was awkward but mostly okay, until he decided to speak ill of my entire mom's side of the family. He blamed my mom for his problems and called her a jerk. He just said horrible things. I realized he was a monster. When I got back, I begged my mom to tell me the truth. I learned about the abuse she endured his childhood, and the abuse he, my aunt and grandma had endured. All the drama I didn't understand from over the years, everything. Basically, my grandfather was extremely abusive, and my dad's family was consistently getting into fights, and had a love-hate relationship with one another. I was shocked, to say the least. Still, I tried to be understanding and to have a relationship with my dad, but he was never interested. He'd tell me he would call, and never did. He forgot my birthdays, never congratulated me on anything, and was just totally absent. I tried visiting him again, but he left me all day at his business alone. He just didn't seem to care about me. Now, years later, he calls me out of the blue. He tells me, without apologizing, that the reason he's been absent from my life is because he has depression, that he finally has his medication in order, and to please understand that he couldn't even bear to look at me my whole life, that I remind him of my mom and the day she left him, that I remind him of his failures. He calls and texts me often now, but still to this day he doesn't ask about me. He doesn't know anything about me at all, nothing. He talks about himself, his business, his vacations, his kids. I answer because I feel bad for him, but it hurts so much, and it's hard for me to even think of him. It hurts that when he sees me, he sees his failures. He doesn't see me. I don't think he ever will, and I don't know how to get over that. Thanks for joining us. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe for more captivating stories. Share your own experiences and opinions in the comments below, and let's keep the conversation going. Until next time, stay tuned for more epic tales.